Hello, my name's Dan Hawes from Graduate Recruitment Bureau. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the third in the GRN podcast series. Today we're focusing on mentoring. We'll be hearing from Sharon Spice at the Institute of Chartered Accountants, England and Wales, followed by Harriet Kirk from Sage. There'll be some questions and answers, and also some further follow-up on our LinkedIn forum. I hope you enjoy it.
So just want to run through the agenda this morning. Introduction from me. Then we're going to move on to Sharon from ICAEW today. She's going to tell us a little bit about what's happening on campus at the moment for them. A bit of time for a Q&A from her. And then we're going to have a little bit of a break, so a good opportunity to wake up, get your coffees, and just have a bit of a chat amongst yourselves. I know everyone always quite enjoys chatting to each other and learning from each other with what they're doing at the moment. And then after that, we'll be hearing from Harriet. So she's going to be going on, talk to about their mentoring masterclass. She works for Sage. And again, a bit of a chance for Q&A. And then there'll be time to leave to get on with our day jobs. So we've got a little bit of a change this morning. We have firstly rebranded it as Masterclasses now. So we are going to always try and make sure we've got themes so that everyone can really get in-depth knowledge about certain topics. But if this morning anyone's got phones or laptops or anything and they want to ask questions throughout the presentations this morning, do feel free. You can actually log into slido.com, put in that code, and you can actually ask questions throughout, and then Dan is going to ask those questions towards the end. But don't worry if no one has time with their tech or whatever to get it up. We can obviously just ask questions normally as well. And after the event, we can also ask anonymous questions on there. So it's a good opportunity for it to be anonymous, just in case anyone feels nervous asking questions. So yeah, do feel free to use that. Also, please be social. If on Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn, just hashtag GRN. You can tag the GRB team or ICAEW or Harriet as well with any questions or what's happening this morning. So GRB, obviously we are hosting GRN. We're having a really good start to the year at the moment. Obviously into 2019 already, it feels like yesterday that was 2018's over, so it's a busy start to the year. We've been going for over 20 years now. We're actually set up by Dan, who is obviously hosting today, and the other co-founder, Chris. They actually started it from a bedroom at university, at Brighton University. We're now 65, nearly sort of 70 staff across Brighton and London. 4 different divisions. We've got GRB, so we do contingency search and selection recruitment across pretty much any market now, any kind of head office role. And we also have our RPO outsourcing division as well, so we can help with anything from assessment centres or screening. So we kind of offer all solutions there. And we then have our experience hire division, so we do recruit into experienced IT, analytics, and also finance. Loads of different industries, loads of different clients, over 1,800 clients. So yeah, real breadth of knowledge. So do pick our brains. Again, it's anonymous. We're not going to go for a hard sell today. It is literally just about trying to help people get insight into what's going on in the marketplace. So do ask questions. Dan put together this, which is actually some testimonials from clients last year. So it was just a bit of an opportunity just to see, some kind of the words, I guess, that we're theming from our clients and the service that we've provided. So obviously giving them great candidates, giving a good service, and the time and the great teams that we're working in partnership with our clients. So a really good end to 2018. It's one of our best ever years. Really, really excellent. Manic though. Very, very busy. GRN, we set up in 2009. It really is an opportunity to bring together in-house recruiters, so we don't allow other agencies to come to it. We know that it is really just an opportunity for you to hear what other people are doing, any challenges, any success stories. You'll be surprised, even though in the room you've got so many different types of organisations, you'll often be sharing the same, successes or challenges. So do, ask each other questions. We don't share the group with who's come today or anything externally. It is a closed group and invite only. We've got over about 2,000 members now across any industry you can imagine, and really small businesses up to top FTSE companies. So it's a really, really good opportunity to learn from each other. We always have a view from campus, sort of what's going on with students and the themes, first of all in the morning, and then we normally move on to a specific topic. So I've had loads of different topics, retention, your STEM graduates, focusing on inductions. So again, a real breadth of different topics that you can kind of pick and choose through the year. Maybe what makes sense for you at the time with anything that you want to learn a little bit more about. New for this year, we are now doing podcasts. So we are now recording the sound today, much to my joy. And so you can obviously get that afterwards as well. And we do now have a pro membership if anyone's interested. So it is $29.99 a month. And with that, you get all of the slide decks, you will get all of the audio, and you will get extra features and things like early bookings and stuff for today, because it is starting to get really, really busy with people wanting to attend, which is excellent. So the audience today, we've just kind of given a bit of an overview of the kind of people that are in the room today, just for you to get a bit of an idea about the spectrum of clients. As you can see, it really is different types of sectors, marketplaces, exciting things going on. So definitely a really good opportunity to see what's going on and any themes from each other. So I'll be interested to hear a little bit more about that. So today's presenters, we're going to be hearing from Sharon, who works at ICAEW. She's going to tell us a bit more, as I said, about what's happening at the moment with students and on campus for them. We will then move on to Harriet. So she is the Senior Talent Acquisition Consultant for Sage. So she's again going to be telling us a bit more about their mentoring schemes and what's obviously been happening at Sage for now. So, Sharon, are you ready? I'm going to pass over, but thanks everyone for today, because I know everyone is really stacked, so appreciate you all attending.
Thank you, Jenny. Firstly, welcome to ICAEW. Hope you get to see some more of the rooms before you disappear today, because there's a number that are pretty much like this. But if it's your first time here, I'm really delighted to be able to work with Sharon to host this event, because I think it's a fabulous event. So first, I was just going to run through a little bit about ICAEW, just to set the context as to why we're even involved in this, but also then share with you what we're doing on campus and explain why we're on campus. I think that's probably quite important. And then we have about 40 campus ambassadors, we have a student recruitment team, and we're just going to share with you some of the observations we've noticed, not only for our own point of view, but also what some of the other brands are doing on campus. So hopefully that will be quite useful for you to hear what's happening. So ICAEW, we were established in 1880. There's a bit of disagreement on whether this is true, but we feel that we are the largest professional chartered accountancy body in the world, but there is another one saying they feel they are. I think it's by probably about 2 days or something ridiculous. But we serve members globally. We are constantly growing. We have a constantly growing student base. But for us, we're about going for the top talent and those students who are going to do the qualification, ideally as part of a graduate programme, and then go straight into business after within about a 3-year period. But I'll talk through how that actually works in a moment. We work in the public interest. I think that's really important to say. So we can't really make money, but actually we have to make a lot of money in order to do all the things we do globally. So we do a number of things around thought leadership. We actually regulate the profession. So those who are going to act as a chartered accountant, we monitor them and make sure they're not doing anything naughty. I'm sure you've seen some things in the media over a number of years. I'm sure we're involved in the background looking at what's happened there in a number of the big high-profile cases. But we do that on a global platform. So in terms of what we do for our members, because we are over 150,000 members, training and qualifications, which is the area that I come from, and that's where our student recruitment team are based, and that's really where we try and get people to do the qualification as part of the graduate programme. As I mentioned, we also regulate all the members who our chartered accountants here to make sure they're not doing naughty things. And we also support our members. So we start with a qualification, but then we provide lifelong learning. So we don't expect someone to come in, do the qualification as a 18 or 21-year-old, and then not do anything after that. We'll be there constantly saying that you need to keep getting your knowledge up to speed. So we are about sort of retirement. Actually, we've got a huge number of retirees who still want to know what's happening in the profession. And then thought leadership. A huge part of our work, which we actually are able to bring into the campuses, is around looking at all the key things that are happening, whether it's around technology, regulation, what's generally happening in the finance sector. We have the ability to, we've got a huge team here who actually act as kind of an academic faculty, and we can take that out and actually work with universities to share that with the students. So that actually is quite a good USP that we have to actually engage students in a different way. So I'm going to share a little video with you. It's really short, but this might give you a flavour for what we take out on campus.
What if you would say, today is a new day? What if you would say, today I'm going to take control of my own destiny? What if you would say, I'm the driver of change in my life, and I believe in myself? What if you would say, today I am open to new ideas, ready for new opportunities. I can overcome challenges. I'll be part of something bigger than me. Travel the world and embrace different cultures. Help launch groundbreaking technology. Decide the fate of multi-million-pound deals. I can transform people's lives through the work of global charities. Influence political decisions. I will be who I want to be. Today, I start on a new journey. Now, isn't that a beautiful day? A career in chartered accountancy offers more than you'd imagine. Where will it lead you?
So hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavour. I think one of the biggest things we have to do is myth busting about what chartered accountancy is. So we tend to take that out on campus. We've done that for about the last 6 months, and the More Than You Can Imagine campaign is actually worked really, really well on campus because it's trying to change perceptions of what an accountant actually does do now. That one, yeah. Perfect, thank you. I'm not going to go too much into this because this is not why I'm here to speak. But chartered accountancy, you can enter it from a whole host of routes. I've spoken to a number of people here today already, and it includes apprenticeships, it could include our own qualifications, it will include graduate programs, it includes school leaver programs. So we deal with a really wide variety of students who are going to come into the qualification. And one of the key things that I'll just point out on this slide is to do our qualification, ultimately, we need you to be part of a training agreement with an employer. So that's the key bit which engages us with employers, because students can't just do the qualification on their own in terms of completing it. They actually have to do this with an employer at some stage. So practical work experience a student would be expected to do. They'd be expected to do a whole host of work on ethics and professional scepticism. And then there's also a number of modules, 15 in total, and then they have to do 3 years professional development. Okay, so that's enough on ICAEW and who we are, because I felt you needed to know why we're here to set the scene. So ICAEW on campus, we support around 5,500 employers globally. A huge number of those employers at the moment are within the UK. And that could range from a one-woman band starting up her business as a chartered accountant practice, right through to some of the biggest global brands you could possibly imagine. So we support a real kind of wide range of employers. In total, that works out to be, it's probably growing, I'd say, up 500 employers each year. So the number of employers we're engaging with is quite significant. And actually, based on last year, we're trying to help them fill around 8,000 vacancies. So we have a big task because although we've got our own graduates that we recruit for, so all our student recruitment team are graduates themselves, and we take them through assessment programs too. We're also trying to support all these employers, make sure that these students and the employers are connected so that they can run some of the recruitment programs. This is what we did last year on campus. Over 22,000 students were involved in some activity we did. That's the ones that we can measure. Just shy of 400 face-to-face events. One thing to note, we've reduced quite significantly the number of careers fairs that we've done. We used to do a whole host of them. We've now really cut back on careers fairs and finding that if we go in on our own basis, we probably get more traction. It's probably quite important to say. We've got here, we do about 200 university events, 173 very specific school leaver events, but it's a reasonable balance actually between the engagement we're doing with the schools to get them engaged in the profession early, and then we target them as soon as they go onto campus. We target every university in the UK by some shape or means. So we do a whole host of things. That could be digital campaigns, but we actively target, I would say, around 60 to 70 universities where we're actively on campus. So we deliver quite a lot during the year. Okay, so these are things that we do. These are things that we try. We've been doing this, like many of you in this room. I've been involved in student recruitment for about 10 years now, and I've seen the number of things that we've done develop quite considerably because a number of the stakeholders that we're engaging with and the influencers have said that no longer works, you now need to be doing something else. So the key things that we've been doing on campus are skills sessions. We do a number of things around resilience, commercial awareness, we do a skills review, a skills audit. So we actually get the students to sit there, work out what career they want to do, map out what skills might be needed for that career, and identify shortfalls that they think they might have, and it's usually what they think they might have. In reality, we'll then sit with them and say, actually, do you do this, do you do that? Well, actually, that could be a really good example of how you meet some of those skills already, but it just helps them focus their minds on what they might need to do. Guest lecturers, I referred to earlier that we have a huge thought leadership team here, a technical team, and what we would ask them to do is actually go in and run a lecture. So we'd speak to the lecturers and say, what would be useful to have someone come and talk about? So it might be someone from here, but more importantly now we're using actually our members, so ACAs who can go and talk about, it could be anything, it could be tax, it could be changes in a regulation, real technical stuff, but what it does do is enables us to get in front of those students in more of a, I guess, a technical academic way and less of a sales pitch for us. Careers fairs, we've just launched our own virtual careers fair last year. We launched it in the UK and Southeast Asia. It actually worked really, really well. We didn't know how it was going to go, if I'm being quite honest with you. We engaged with a huge amount of universities who don't currently do a lot of face-to-face events with us. And it also, thankfully, went out to probably about 75% of the students who engaged were not in accountancy and finance. Because actually most of our employers, as we've spoke to a number of people already around the table, they want people from every stretch of the imagination. They don't necessarily want an accountant to have come from a finance and accounting degree. So that's one of the big myths we have to bust. They like people coming from a history degree or a French degree. So actually for us, that's part of the diversity piece that we really try and push. Presentations, we take our employers in. So we're in a quite unique position. As a member body, we get airtime, I think, at universities, because what we do is take a number of employers in with us. And we say, talk about a day in the life, explain what it's really like, talk about a bad day, talk about a good day. And that really helps because the kind of lecturers don't feel that they're being sold a sales pitch by us because we're seen as more independent. And the employers can actually demonstrate a real breadth of the recruitment opportunities that they have. Competitions, this is something we spend an awful lot of money on. We do a competition which goes out to campus, which is usually around business games. So we'll go in and basically run a day in the life of a chartered accountant business game. So they'll work on a business case, we'll review it, assess it, they might get a prize at the end of it. They've proved really, really successful for us. And we've done that for a number of years, and we just keep evolving that approach because that really, really works well. And then the other thing we launched last year was something called ICAEW 100. And this is where students go on a league table, it's a digital format, and they compete against each other. And it helps them demonstrate what competencies they have, but also what competency they might need to gain for their chosen career. So we're not just looking for accountants again, it could be anyone who might want to go into education, whatever it might be. And we, through that particular piece of marketing, we reached out to 145 universities last year. So we're now running it this year, we're running it in Southeast Asia, we'll probably run it in Europe because it's such a great way to get access to large numbers of students on campus. Meeting ICAEW members, that's basically we just get our members to go in and talk about what the day job consists of. And parents' evenings, I don't know how many of you do parents' evenings. We're doing about 5 to 6 this year. We do them all over the country. If they take off, if they work, we'll do more. But that for us is because even at university level, we're finding the parents want to come in and have a chat about what the career opportunities are. And I can see some of you laughing. And believe me, I've had parents ask if they can go to an assessment centre to make sure their child delivers at that assessment centre, which obviously was a no from that particular employer, thankfully. But parents, you know, there's a huge investment going into those, into their children now in terms of having to pay the fees. So they want to feel part of that decision-making process. So we felt, okay, well, let's talk to them about what this might look like in terms of their career. Speed networking, like speed dating, we get the number of employers to sit with the students. They go around a table, they've got a couple of minutes to do a sales pitch to each other. Those work really, really well. Because a student can get a 2-minute insight into what an employer's got to offer, and the employer can almost pick within 2 minutes people they probably like to have a conversation with. So that works well for both parties. Careers advisor support, I'll go on to that in a moment in terms of the observations that we've got from careers advisors in terms of what they seem to like and don't like. So I'll expand on that in a couple of seconds. Print, online advertising publications, we do a lot less, actually, of the campus publications. I can see some nodding of heads. It feels like a lot more people are kind of withdrawing from some of the campus publications. They're very expensive for a start for us, but we can't track the engagement, whereas some of the other tools that we're using, we can really see what's happening. Okay. So who are we all targeting in this room? Well, it's probably not this really big number. I don't know how many of you can see this, so I'll just shout out the high-level figures. There's 2.6 million students who enrolled on a HEI or FE programme last year, before last. Of that 2.6 million, 2.1 million are doing first degrees. So that's a huge kind of pool that we're all trying to target in different ways. So what we've done to help you hopefully today, for the last part of my presentation, is I asked the campus ambassadors that we have on campus and also the team to consider a number of things that they felt would be useful, I guess, to the people in this room. So what's the level of activity like? What have they really noticed? Because things are changing constantly. What type of things are proving popular? So hopefully giving you some insights into things that seem to be working well. Who's engaging? So we engage probably with all the same people you do in this room. So the careers advisors, the heads of, the lecturers, the parents, the students. And there's a number of things that they've come back to us and said, do you know what, these things, that's what we want you to deliver. We don't want that other stuff anymore. So we'll share with you what we've been told. And then also the questions that the students are asking us are becoming a bit more kind of, more to the point actually. They're more direct. It's like, they're always going to ask, how much am I going to earn? But it's almost, what am I going to get from this? What does my career progression path look like? And how long will it take for me to get from, the graduate level entry to the manager? How is this all going to work? So we'll just share with you some of the questions that we're seeing come up, and then how we felt other brands were standing out. Okay, so what's the level of activity like on campus? I do feel that people are really changing the way they're engaging with the universities. I refer to the Russell Group here for a reason. It's one of the biggest groups that we target, but we do target a lot of universities outside Russell Group. But the feedback we're getting at the moment is actually the larger brands are still pumping lots of money into the bigger universities, the Russell Group universities. But actually, there's less more of the pop-up stands. So there used to be pop-up stands that were appearing everywhere where someone would just turn up, set up a stall for the day, do their bit, and then leave. And actually, that's kind of disappearing to a degree in some of the universities. This is bizarre, and I'll explain why this is bizarre. So reduction in assessment preparation activities. So the students are kind of feeling that there's a reduction in the number of employers who are going on campus and taking that time to explain what the recruitment process looks like. And also then they're saying that there's a reduction in the interactive sessions on campus. So this could be for the school sessions, it could be for the employability sessions, but they're seeing a reduction, the team that I have. So, flip side. So what's proving popular? So going back to what I've already just said, the interactive sessions. So although people are kind of reducing the number of interactive sessions they're doing, actually, when they're doing them, there's real interest from the students in the interactive sessions. So that's quite a fascinating one, that people have stopped doing them, but actually they're proving more popular. Social and informal structures. Okay, so what I mean by this is a pub quiz where you go, you take them somewhere, to a local pub, you do a pub quiz, and then you do a little bit of an informal presentation. You don't stand there and do, I guess, a PowerPoint presentation. You go around, talk to them, maybe do some round tables. Those are proven really popular. That really goes against how we probably normally did things, but now we're thinking, okay, so how do we do some of that? Because we probably need to do that to engage with those students. Rewards, insight days, anything you can offer. It doesn't have to be a book voucher, it doesn't have to be money, but if you can say to them, if you turn up to this event, we will give you a reward of some nature. It could be access to a social group, whatever it is. Students love the rewards element. So if you can do that, we're looking at what we can do, but that seems to prove really popular. Access to employers that you'd all expect. They want to see employers, they want to ask questions about what a job would look like, what involves, what the process is for recruitment. So just being visible on campus is what they want. And again, going back to my earlier slide, people are reducing the amount of time they're spending on campus to talk about assessment processes. In some instances, not everyone's doing that. But actually, they're saying they want more of that. They want to understand. They're so focused and invested in getting a job. They want to know how to do the best at those assessment centres. So they want someone coming and saying, you'll need to know how to do this, this, and this, this, this. They want CV preparation. They want interview preparation. They want to know how to kind of present themselves in, I guess, a selection day where they're up against another 5, 6 people on a table. They want to know how all that's going to work and what it looks like. And they're investing that time now rather than just leaving it a bit before. And equally, they don't often, there's a lot of assessment companies out there who offer services to actually update people on what an assessment day looks like, and they charge a huge amount of money for that. Students sometimes can't afford that, so I think having the employer engage, going onto campus saying, look, we're going to come and do this, we're going to tell you how this works, I think is really appreciated. And then digital experiences, gamification, huge. Number of employers who are able to invest in gamification. It costs an awful lot of money, but if you can do it and you get it right, then it's a big win with the students. So who's engaging? I've split this down into some stakeholders that we regularly engage with. I'll just go through some of the things in terms of the observations we've had for this academic cycle. Students, final year penultimate students, they're the 2 year groups who are turning up to our events, and they're around employability. And bizarrely, we're finding people turning up who've already made the decision to go into our career, kind of in accountancy, but actually they just want to be reassured. So they want to come and meet a member of that. They just feel that last bit of reassurance is needed. So those kind of final year students who, you know, to be honest with you, we've been engaging with them as first, second and third years. But actually we're now looking at this saying most of them are turned up to the events in the latter stage. They're leaving it a little bit later. Also we're finding out, as you'd expect, students who are turning up to our events are those who've done a year out, because they're just constant, they're really engaged now, they kind of feel like they know what career they want, or maybe don't want, and now they're looking for all that skills that the employers have said they're going to look for when it comes to actually hiring. Parents, again, briefly talked about that, they're looking to know how much their child might earn, what their future might look like, what their lifestyle might look like. So we try and give some of that, a flavour of that, but also we do talk about the things about job satisfaction, and actually, you know, you want your child to actually go to work and really enjoy the job they're doing, so we try and get the balance right there. Heads and lecturers, they want technical knowledge from us, but they also want things that are interactive. They want things around commercial awareness. I know a number of people probably do sessions around commercial awareness. They love that, they want more of that. The feedback they've also said to us is actually do it in a lunchtime, do it in an evening, because we've got them, we want them to come to class, we want them to focus on what we've got to do, and if you offer those sessions around, we'll really help you promote those sessions. So we've listened to that, and we've changed sometimes when we do things, and that has made actually a big difference to probably our turnout to some of our events. And careers advisors, as you'd expect, they want to know things around what the assessment day will look like. They do want that support in CV writing and how someone should present themselves in a better light. So if you can offer that to make your brand stand out, come across more, doing it just to help rather than doing it to get a job here with us, I think that also goes down really, really well. Okay, key questions that we're finding our students are asking, I think some of these are relevant for you in this room. Opportunities to work abroad, we get asked that an awful lot. So we know we're going to start in the UK, but we've got big aspirations. What might that look like and how would that work? Bizarrely, I find this still really bizarre. Someone is asking at university, maybe in their third year, which was better, the apprenticeship or the university route. And for us, we kind of don't expect to be getting asked that question actually, but we get asked that question an awful lot. So we make sure we've got an answer to that. They're both very valid routes, obviously. But that surprises us that we're getting asked that sort of question at kind of year 3, when ideally they've made that decision already. How to start a career, what a day looks like. The more you can do on case studies or getting members of your staff who can give up time, which I know is hugely valuable, to just share their experience of what a day looks like working for your businesses, then that's what they want. They want to see warts and all as well. I think that's the authentic bit that kind of seems to be coming through. Salary, they'll always ask about salary. Even if it's going into a voluntary sector, they need to know they can afford to live. So the salary might not be the main motivator, but they just need to know what to expect to make sure it's a career for life for them. How we differ, we always get asked that, you will always get asked that, we get asked it in terms of professional body nature, but you might get asked in terms of another investment bank or another retailer that's similar to you, you'll get asked that. And then the final one for me is who's recruiting. The first thing they want to know is where can we get a job? So we need to know who's offering jobs, and then we signpost them because we offer something called training vacancies, and we promote all the jobs for free for our employers to try and get them matched up with some really good students. This is the last slide. So how are the brands sounding out? This is the feedback we've had from the team. Digital, definitely if it's not a sales pitch, we've had to change our presentation numerous times on campus because we were coming across really too sales pitchy, and it's more the value add, the information sharing, those type of things that they wanted to hear, and some more generic stuff about the industry, not necessarily always about ourselves. And then someone shared this with me in our team. I don't know if you've seen this, so I know a number of you in here are struggling like we do to actually do a lot of face-to-face events. So what else can you do to still engage and come across that you're wanting to have a conversation but can't visibly be there? Then this is, I don't know if you can see, I don't know if I can load this up, but this is a campaign from MI5. It's obviously quite a great brand to do. I think that they must have had a bit of fun with this. But the tagline they've got, no one appears there from that organisation, but it says, we don't need to be seen to make an impact. Fantastic. I absolutely love that, because basically they're saying we can't be everywhere, but actually that's a bit about, a bit about who we are. It's kind of get students probably really interested, and then they can go and find more information out because there's details on there for how to do that. So that's kind of in a nutshell who we are and what we're doing, and also our observations currently. I hope there's some bits in there that have been useful, just so you can see how someone else is doing it. We have a recruitment team of around 13 people who go out, and we constantly asking them, and the campus ambassadors, who are our biggest source of information, what is it we need to do to keep changing to make sure we're still relevant on campus. So it's over to Ginny, if that's okay.
Really good feedback on just learning about what students are looking for and how it can help employers. So really, really good. Anyone got any questions?
Where do you get all your data from? Is that internal, external? Where do you get it from?
What type of data specifically?
All your feedback from your campaigns that you're doing, careers fairs, what student wants, do you use an external?
Nope, we do it all. So we'll do feedback at the end of sessions, and that's one of the things that we ask for. So if we're there doing a session which is around skills audit maybe, we'll say, okay, was that useful? You'll help us evolve it. So we usually get really good engagement and feedback. We get feedback from lecturers, we're constantly asking them. We get it through high flyers, which I don't know if any of you use that also. But we also ask the questions. We get 15 questions where we can ask specific things to students and all the stakeholders, and they basically rate us on all the things that we do. So we get assessed also by high flyers. Around about 300 students literally go through all our stuff and rip it apart, and then give us feedback. So we're kind of constantly monitoring what we do.
Any other questions? Got some from Slido, if not. I did even ask one myself using it. I did also think what I can do is share the code as well for everyone, because I did actually only have it up for like a really brief second, so probably no one actually made note of it. But I know you talked about obviously having a lot more face-to-face events with students. Is there anything that you kind of do to encourage them to come to them, or how do you find attendance? Because I know that can be something we get feedback from, and potentially people run events on campus or whatever, actually maybe the students don't want to come along or don't attend them.
Good question, and it's one we've considered, or we consider it every year. The key thing is the timing. So when you do it, so if you want to target first years, do it in a timetabled event. So work with the lecturers and say, where can we fit this into a timetable? And that's where you're going to have to do something which is going to benefit the students. So it definitely can't be a sales pitch. So it could be about telling them about the industry and kind of what type of things happen in the industry. It could be an update on, you could do a case study on something that's happening in the industry and get them to explore it in teams. There's all sorts of things you could do, but I think it's definitely the timing, and they want to know how they're going to get a job. It's that assessment piece. I think out of all the things that's relevant to it's
they're going to get
how
out of
am
it
I going to
almost.
get that job? So if you can almost start your marketing of your event in terms of this is how you're going to potentially get a job with us, then you'll get people to know.
Any other questions? Interesting, I know you mentioned how students obviously ask about salary and, you know, how am I going to move really quickly into management, and I think that's something that comes out often in these as well, as that expectation setting, and students now do want it tomorrow and it's what can I have now? Do you ever do anything to kind of set that expectation with students as well?
Yeah, we do. So we also work with the employers as well, because we find once students come into graduate programs, and a lot of the employers we work with have them for 3 years, the students are then kind of leaving. Not all of them, but some of the students are leaving, and the employers come to us and say, we don't want them to leave, how do we keep them? And the first thing we say to the employers is, so when did you start having the conversation about careers progression? Oh, well, we'll do it just before they get to the end of 3 years. We're like, no, you need to have that in year one, because you've picked the best people for your company. Those best people need motivating, you need to keep engaging with them. So not only do we set the expectation with the students, but we talk to the employers and say, this is what you need to start thinking about, because a high flyer or someone who really wants to work for your company doesn't want to wait to the end of the graduate program to know what happens next. They need to see that journey. So we'll talk to students and say, actually, depending on which organisation you go into, because they vary so significantly in terms of the graduate programmes, we say you might be able to go into a manager position, but you might end up, your kind of development might be about going to see different countries. It might not necessarily mean you get a manager straight away. So we talk about the different ways of progression, and it's not always about getting a massive pay increase, which a lot of them sometimes expect, and also about getting that manager title. And it's also about saying to them, these are the things that you now need to do to stand out. So you finished your graduate programme, you've been a bit of a star. You also need to keep them engaged with you and tell them why they need to keep progressing you.
Yeah.
So it kind of works both of those ways.
There's another question on Slido, which is, how do you prepare candidates who are less willing to maybe commit long term?
Really good question, whoever asked that was. We prepare them, in fact, so students we find initially talking about a 3-year graduate programme was fine. They like that stability, they like to know what they were doing for the next 3 years. I'm sure as many of you now know, the thought of committing to 3 years, even 5 years with some of the programmes that our employers offer, frightens them. So we just talk about what that 3 years might look like, what the opportunities it will give them, and we just talk about it in chunks. And we break down that journey and what they might get from each year. And we get the employers to actually do something quite similar, so they don't think of it as a 3-year commitment, they think of it as this year I'll be doing that, the year after that I'll be doing that. So it kind of is easier to absorb. Because I think as soon as you start talking about 3 to 5 years, that really finds some of the younger audiences that we deal with.
I guess when they're not necessarily always that certain ED,
Yeah,
I guess it can be
absolutely.
quite a daunting prospect.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about rotation, so if they start in one area, they might get the opportunity to move into other areas of the business, get more time to decide whether it's for them. But again, we also work with employers and say, you need to do this stuff, you need to offer them rotation.
To keep them engaged, I
Yeah,
guess.
so we kind of work with both parties again.
One last question on Slido as well is, could you give us some examples of some of the interactive sessions? I know you mentioned that they're actually getting really good feedback from the students, but maybe less people are doing them. Have there been any particular one that really stood out to you?
Anything around resilience seems to be a pretty engaging topic for students. So we have our own session on resilience, but that seems to work pretty well. Anything around mindfulness and kind of, even if you do things around mental health awareness, things that kind of people wouldn't expect you necessarily to be talking about. That's what students are looking for. They're looking for an employer who's going to think a bit differently. You'll probably get engagement through those type of things. But it just goes back to the interactive stuff. They don't want to be sat and talked to constantly. They want to feel like they're networking. For international students, we do a huge amount of events with international students. They're literally there wanting to network. If they have business cards, all of them, they would be handing them out. They're amazing when we see the international students. So it's anything around that networking, because they're trying to work out what their network might look like in the future. So I think that's usually quite a good one as well.
Well, thank you very much, Sharon. We're
Thank
going to have a
you.
break now.
Hello, and my name's Harriet, and I work at Sage People, which is a little part of Sage. We were a startup that was bought by Sage 2 years ago. We make HR software, so not the typical accounting software that people associate with Sage. I'm going to talk today a little bit about mentoring and helping your graduates reach their potential. The colleague that is coming to join me is actually someone that works at the Henley Business School, which is where I worked before I joined Sage People, and he's run some mentoring at Sainsbury's, where he worked before. He does a really employer liaison-focused role at Henley, but ends up working with the students by definition as well. So I thought it might be helpful to have that real-life perspective from someone at a university. I've not worked in a university for 2.5 years now. Things change so quickly, as we all know. My Twitter handle is actually Harriet Mezzo. I'm also an opera singer, so that's the mezzo part of it. The opera singer less relevant today, but in terms of my, I guess, background and how I got to the business is called Fair Sale actually before we were bought by Sage, and I joined there having little tangible, I guess, recruitment in the more sales sense of the role, but I quickly set up hiring graduates, hiring apprentices, and hiring placement students and interns. But I'm actually also a professional coach, which I use quite a lot in day-to-day recruitment role. I think I really see recruitment as a sales role, but actually people buy from people, and if people don't trust you, why would they buy your product? Why would they join your company? So the coaching element is really helpful for me, actually. And I tend to be a fairly honest recruiter, sometimes too much for my own good, but I couldn't place someone in the business if I didn't think it was the right role or the right business for them. The other thing that I've got on the slide here, so my LinkedIn profile, please feel free to connect with me if we're not already connected. The other thing up there, Talent and Tech, is my blog. So it started very millennial focused when I was at the university, and then I shifted it over to be far more about talent and hiring and tech. I'm just writing something at the moment about National Apprenticeship Week, so that will go up soon, but please feel free to take a read. So the sort of stuff I'll cover today, I thought I'd talk about what mentoring is. And before I start, it'd be really helpful to know how many of you within companies have any form of mentoring, official or non-official, that happens in your business? A lot. Great, so I'm probably preaching to the converted. So feel free to ask any questions or make any comments. Is there anyone here from universities? Okay, so perhaps if you're from a university, Reading University has something called Thrive, so they have a mentoring scheme within the university with alumni. I went to Birmingham and I do some mentoring for them actually in their alumni scheme, so probably relevant from both perspectives. But I'll talk about mentoring. I'll also talk about the difference between mentoring and coaching, because there's quite a fundamental difference, although there's loads of crossover as well. Hey, Jack. Come and join me. Put your stuff to yourself. I'm just talking about what we'll cover. I'll talk about why mentoring is important and how it can benefit your business as well. We'll also touch on what makes a good mentor and what kind of attributes you might look for if you're setting up a scheme and you want to recruit some mentors in your business. Also, what's in it for the mentors, because it's a huge responsibility. It takes a lot of time. I think commitment is one of the big themes I've got in it, because it can be really easy when you've got the pressures of a day job to, say, oh, can we pause on that conversation, or can we just postpone it? And actually the continuity and the commitment is what really makes it successful. I'll talk a little bit about what the mentee would expect, and I'll probably hand that to Jack, actually, from the university perspective. How can you help your graduates to reach their potential through mentoring? And also, when you're setting up your mentorship program, how do you do it? Where do you start it? And also, how do you attract mentors and actually onboard them? I think with anything, onboarding is so important and so key to success. If you don't do the beginning bit properly, you probably won't succeed in the long run. So it's just worth that initial investment. So the first thing we'll start with is, what is mentoring? So I put a couple of definitions up here. I guess the thing I really wanted to highlight is the difference between mentoring and coaching, because many organisations want to offer a coaching environment and coaching as well. But I think when students are looking for a mentor, I think on the whole, certainly from my experience at the university, and Jack, correct me if you think it's different now, students are looking for someone that's more experienced in the role that they're looking to aspire to do in their career, in their future. So that's like a key part of mentoring, whereas coaching, it's really not a prerequisite that you are an expert in that field. Of course, sometimes in business coaching, people may request that you've got that experience, which is fine. But coaching is very much around conversations, forward-looking versus, say, counselling. you really don't have to be an expert in it. Whereas mentoring, students are really looking for someone that can say, what are you doing now? Where do you want to get to? How can I help you? How can I help you with some network or some contacts? Being a mentor, you really want to be, a trusted advisor. I think that's quite a good phrase to sum it up, and very experienced and willing to commit to that and train someone. So, why is mentoring important? So I definitely think that, we live in a generation now where we have 5-6 generations in the workforce, and that can cause some conflict sometimes, that can cause all sorts of challenges. And actually, young people now, millennials and Generation Z that are going into the workforce, are actually looking for far more than the salary. The salary is important, as Sharon said as well, everyone will be looking for it. But actually, if everywhere's offering the same salary, how do you differentiate yourselves? And actually, learn to learn is the ultimate skill of the future. And if you can tell someone that you can offer them some mentoring and you can teach them how they're going to learn, how they're going to develop their skill set and get to that career and that leader they might want to be, it's just another string to your bow in the organisation of being able to advertise and promote it. Another thing I really think it links with is retaining your top talent. It's all great to do an amazing recruitment process and get them onboarded, but actually, the typical tenure in a job is kind of around 2 years now for people going into the workforce. And that's not really a long time if you think how much time it takes to invest in a person jumping into their career for the first time. So if you can show them something you can offer them extra to their job and paying them, you've got more chance of retaining them. I read an article on Forbes.com yesterday, and there was a statistic which I haven't put up here because I don't know where it came from, but many successful people do say that mentoring is really critical to their success. I have a mentor, someone that's much more senior and way more experienced, and we don't see each other all the time, but it's really helpful to kind of use it as a sounding board. And the right mentor can certainly kind of energize you and excite you and just help you think outside the box and really think of things that you might not think. Something that was picked up on earlier was the piece of resilience. So the lady Nima Pasha, who leads the team that Jack works in, that I worked in, does a lot of work around resilience in careers, and I think we already mentioned sometimes there's a lack of resilience for various reasons in young people coming into the workforce now. And I think, just as you say, having someone that might be able to help them, might be able to help with those nerves, and might be able to help them take them through. I think also it can help with diversity. If you have a particular, particular pocket that you think, right, we really need to get that area, those sorts of people into more leadership roles. It's also great for women. It's equally good for them, but it is a good way of helping with diversity as well. Now just focusing on more the business side, and Jack, if you've got anything from when you were at Sainsbury's, please pitch in. So again, we've kind of got the same piece around retaining the talent, but also attracting the best talent. It's a really good thing to have on there in terms of what do we offer, what else do we offer, as well as the salary and the bonus and the benefits, etc. You're actually also potentially preparing your mentors for leadership positions, and it's probably quite a soft way of finding out if they'll be good people managers. I think a lot of companies, certainly startups, and certainly the one I've been in, is quite guilty of hiring great people. They're amazing at their job, and then all of a sudden we need to grow the business and we need to expand that team, and they just become people managers. And actually, most people leave a manager, not a job, not a company. And if you put people into people manager positions that aren't experienced, or perhaps they just don't want to do that, there's got to be other ways to progress than being a manager of people. But allowing them to do some mentoring can have a soft way of finding out their skill set. You are going to constantly assess your mentors and make sure that they're doing what you expect of them. It's a good way of them finding out as well, preparing them for leadership positions. And actually, another thing I also read was around encouraging communication between different parts of the business. So at Sage, we have a really wide apprenticeship scheme. And those apprentices all have mentors. And what's really great is the apprentices are all over. So Sage has a head office in Newcastle, but it also has an office in Shard, and then in the South regions as well. And all of those apprentices that have mentors form like a little network. And they all talk and they all do stuff together and by themselves, and then we organise things as well. But because they're all from different parts of the business, those parts of the business might not all communicate. But those apprentices go back to their mentors and go back to their leaders and talk about what they found out. So it's another way, I guess, of spreading news and people communicating. And of course, it will propel your employees to success, both the mentors and also the mentees. And just going back to what we said before, you don't want to lose those great people that you've hired and you've brought into the business, because they'll get to know their value. And, we all know what recruiters are like. We're always looking for people. We're always looking to get the best talent, and you really don't want to lose that. So what makes a good mentor? So there's going to be lots of different opinions on this, and I thought I'd pick some key themes that actually make a great coach as well. But I think that there's an element of being compassionate. I think that especially if there's an age gap, which it doesn't have to be, it could be, a mentor could just be a couple of years into their career trajectory, but typically we probably think of a mentee wanting someone that's, a leader of an area of a business or of a business, or an entrepreneur, someone that started a business and that's their aspiration. And I think it's important that that person can be compassionate, because, we all think of something a year ago or 5 or 10 years ago that seemed like the end of the world, and now we've kind of forgotten it even happened. And being able to be compassionate and be open-minded, and listen to someone, understand their troubles and their pains at their time of their life. You don't have to experience it, but you need to step into their shoes and really understand. I think also, being willing to share knowledge, skills and experience, but also learn it as well. Everybody can learn from everybody, whatever your age gap is, whatever the difference is, everyone's got different experiences. I volunteer at a charity called SmartWorks, where we help disadvantaged women get back into careers. And we always, whenever I coach young females, I always say to them, don't forget that you've probably got some great social media or computer literate skills that maybe someone else might not have in an organisation. So I think there's that element of just helping people realise what their skills are, but they might seem obvious to that generation. I think taking your role seriously as a mentor, I'll come on to a little bit more about this when we think about how we set up a scheme, but taking it seriously, being committed is 110% important. There's always that element in a business that, there's a day job to do and you have to understand that. A bit like when we run graduate recruitment events, people might have to drop out if something comes up urgent. But there's that element of being committed, and if you know that the daytime isn't going to work for you, then do it in the evening or the early morning or lunchtime, so there's less chance of having to cancel it. And also having a positive attitude and being a good role model. I really liked this one when I read it in an article, because actually that's so important, because that mentee is going to look up to their mentors so much, and they'll be so impressionable as well, potentially, that being a good role model I think is pretty critical. And finally, actually, setting and meeting your own goals. I thought this was a really interesting one, because if you're coaching someone and you're inspiring to be really positive and really, planning to do loads of things in the future, your mentee might challenge you and say, so what are your aspirations? Do you have a mentor? Do you have a coach? What do you want to do in the next 5, 10, 1 year of your life? And actually, I think increasingly with the younger generations now, they are more challenging. And they probably want to know that you're doing something as well, I would say. So what's in it for the mentors? So you have to entice your mentors to be part of a scheme in a business, as well as entice people to be mentees. And in a high-performing organisation, that could be a challenge, because you're going to entice them away from their job, which is what they get measured on. So, things you can tell them. I mean, actually, you could link it to career objectives. At Sage, we link doing foundation days, so our volunteering. We get 5 volunteering days a year, and we link doing your volunteering days to your objectives. We don't link mentoring yet, but that's probably a good suggestion. But you could link it to encourage people to be part of it. But I think also just telling the mentors what they can gain, so they can, as we said, gain and develop their own skills in people management and mixing with different people from different generations. It's a great skill for their CV. You probably don't want to be promoting them and looking elsewhere, but it is a great skill for their CV to have going forward. It will definitely increase the confidence and the communication. And actually, when you're looking for your mentors and you're recruiting them, don't be blindsided by the ones that are super confident and definitely want to do it. Actually, there might be slightly more introverted people that perhaps could be really good on a one-to-one level. It's not just about people that are great in front of a group. You'll also potentially get some insight into, the next leaders and new innovation and things that are coming. And like we said, just learning from your mentees as well. And it could definitely make you become a better leader. I think that, by learning whether you want to be a people manager, by learning that one-to-one, kind of working with different people, certainly widen your perspective. In terms of what the mentee will expect, I've got a couple of things on here, Jack, and then I'll let you chip in, because you probably have a really good perspective from the university. I've put a little disclaimer at the bottom, which I thought was really important, that you're not a counsellor. We always say this in coaching as well. And I think it's very important that you empower your mentors to know that if something comes out of a discussion which they don't feel comfortable with, they make sure that you set up, call it contracting in coaching, but you set up a contracting agreement with your mentor and mentee to make them both feel safe, make them both feel secure. The conversations are confidential. You're not there to be a counsellor. And it's really important, I think, that you say to your mentors that they tell their mentees. If they were to say something to you which made you potentially have a doubt about their personal safety or someone else's, that's the kind of thing you could reveal. It's just a good disclaimer to have in practice. But in terms onto softer things, so regular meetings and commitment from you as the mentor is very important. You do need to be the expert and more experienced, but it's totally fine that you won't know the answer to every question. They might ask you for advice on courses and learning, and I think if you train your mentor and say, look, if you don't know the answer, it doesn't matter, just go away and find it out, but it's having that confidence to be able to do that. Another thing I thought was worth mentioning is around advice. So advice from the Latin ad visa means from your perspective. In coaching, we don't give advice because it's a bit biased, actually, and you're there to coach and help that person develop their thoughts. In mentoring, you inevitably will give advice. That's what you're seeking a lot of the time. But just bear in mind the risk that poses, or just bear in mind your perspective, or the era you did it in even might be quite different. Providing contacts and networks, again, that's another thing. And I think it's fine to say to the mentor, they need to build a relationship with the mentee first, because they're not going to introduce them to all their contacts and networks, until they have some sort of element of trust in their mentee. It's quite important until you disclose that. And I think being willing to share your failures and successes, it's great to share your successes. It can show real humility when you share your failings as well. But more importantly, how did you get over those failings? What resilience did you show? And how did you build on them? So in terms of helping your graduates to reach their potential, training the mentors, I know we've talked about it already, is really important. They're going to do a job that they probably haven't done before. And actually your mentors might be nervous as well. And sometimes that's not a bad thing to remind your mentees when you train them, to be kind to them. It might be the first time they've done it, and they will be out of their comfort zone, which is a really good thing for their own training. But it's just good to be aware of that. I think offering ongoing support and training for the mentors, it does take budget, it does take time, but I think if you're going to set something up, invest in it, because otherwise it could fail, which would just be a waste and quite damaging, I think, to a lot of people as well. In coaching, we have something called supervision. So we have a closed group as coaches where we discuss scenarios. We don't give names because that remains confidential, but it's just a way to say, hey, I had this client, this happened, what would you do? Or do you think I've done the right thing? What are your thoughts? And I think that can be quite a good idea for your mentors to give them a space, give them a safe space to talk about it. Because as Jack said, things do become emotional and, conversations can go anywhere. And you want to be able to support your mentors if they take on any burdens, take on any challenging situations. Keeping in close contact with the mentees as well as the mentors to check that the relationship both ways is what they expected and is adding value to them. There's nothing worse than a poor pairing and then, just draining on both sides. Chances are if one person isn't enjoying it, the other person probably isn't either, I would say. And I think providing training and regular check-in points on performance for your mentees as well as your mentors is really important. Once a year, performance reviews these days just isn't enough. And young people in jobs definitely won't feel that's enough. In fact, I think increasingly they want feedback on the job, And if you get 6 months down the line and say, well, when you did that thing 5 months ago, they might actually challenge that and say, well, why didn't you tell me I could have improved it for 5 months? And reward achievement. I mean, it might not be a good idea to give prizes to mentors for being a mentor, but find a way to recognise it, even if it's not in their core objectives or on their job description. It's important that their manager supports it and that they are rewarded for it, I would say. Is there anything you want to add? So how can you attract your mentors and onboard them and also keep them engaged? Because there might be all this excitement in the run-up and then they start doing the scheme and they fall off a cliff or it's not engaging anymore. So offering the mentoring not only to the graduates when they're joining, but using it as an incentive for your mentors as well. So what could you get by doing this? What benefits does it bring you? If your companies do volunteer time, I know large corporates often do, it's typically a little more difficult for smaller businesses to be able to invest in that at the start, but you could use the mentoring as your volunteer time, and actually it's quite good because it's desk time. A lot of volunteering involves you leaving the office, going to something, which takes a whole lot more time than the actual activity itself. So you could, perhaps promote it as a volunteer activity. Create a campaign around it, so promote the opportunities, say what the benefits are, get that all over your business and show people what you're doing and share it with people externally as well, because it will just add so much kudos to your business for offering that opportunity. And I think if you can build an onboarding program for the mentors and train them properly, that's really effective, and I've got a little slide on some tips there. But I also thought if you offered a shadow session, maybe like not a dummy, but a person that's willing to be a mentor and a person that's willing to be a mentee, and show them what you expect. I think it's quite easy for us sometimes to think that these impromptu conversations are really natural, but that kind of thing could really scare even, you know, a head of marketing or something like that. I don't know. It could really make someone feel quite vulnerable. Or well, what do I do if they say that? Or what do I do if there's silence? What do I do if they don't have anything to talk to me about? So by covering those bases, I think that can really help. So in terms of starting to set up a mentor scheme, I thought of a couple of tips for anybody that's looking to do it or anyone that's kind of starting it. I think defining what you want and what ROI you want out of it, so what do you want at the beginning and what do you want to get from it, is really important to give you some sort of structure. Start small, I'd recommend. You know, don't try and roll this out across a whole business or a whole university. Try a pilot scheme and pick a particular group to do it with, or pick a selection of people. There's something you can measure and something that you can track. Allocate some budget, just like you said earlier, Jack. You know, nothing comes free. This is people's time. I mean, time is worth more than anything, actually. But and you're already paying them, and they're already employed. But I really like your suggestion of taking people off site. I think that's a really good suggestion. It just helps us to be a little bit more natural, perhaps more honest, perhaps show our fears a little bit more. So even if it's just paying for a coffee for both the people, it will just set the scene a little differently. Training your mentors, as we've already said, putting the time and effort in and giving them some proper training, and perhaps even if you need to get someone external and give them a certificate for it, that's even a good idea. There's lots of very short mentoring and coaching courses that would make them feel like it's a real value to them. Getting feedback is super important after the first session and just making sure you're tracking it, showing them that you value their time and you value their feedback as well. And the suggestion of doing, everyone there as well, if that's appropriate, really good idea to see how it's going. Having a confidential space, like I mentioned, around the supervision for the mentors to come to if they encounter a challenge, I think is very important so they don't feel alone, because they may encounter some challenging things, you just don't know. Reviewing the process and how it can be improved, I mean, that's a continuous thing. You want to be doing that. And also shout about it. Tell your business and tell other people why it's successful. Tell your competitors, or show it, because we're all it's a talent war these days, isn't it, for great candidates. You want to be able to show them, what you're doing is great. I started at university in 2012 and I left in 2016. And I think we saw the students come in from the change in fees from 3,000 to 9,000. We really saw the shift from a graduate role as the only way, and very much probably when I was leaving, that's when people started to wake up to apprenticeships and realise you didn't just have to have a degree to be successful. I do think with the generation that's coming out of university and coming out of school, there's that element of every year there's an exam. And I think that impacts resilience because you're always being tested. I think that children really young are already being primed for their career, which feels almost ridiculous because actually, how do they know what they want to do? And actually it creates a lot of stress. But I honestly also think social media massively impacts it. I think I saw a lot of challenges at the university, and the students now have grown up with, images in front of them. They literally live their life through an iPhone camera lens, and I honestly think that has a huge impact. It's not something that's not kind of fixable and people can't work on, but I think there's a real duty of care from the university and from the employers to really look after them. I think mental health in the workplace is, the importance of it is being increased. I think sometimes there's an element of lip service in some organisations, but I think everybody's got to get on board with it, and actually it's all our responsibility to help the generation not be snowflakes and have resilience as well. But I haven't come across it firsthand. I've read a lot about it. It's not something we're doing at Sage yet, formally. Perhaps informally it might be happening. But I definitely agree. And I think that, in a way, I guess the precursor to that is the mentors being really open-minded and being willing to learn. Because, I think just coming back to the other point as well, we're mixing a very young generation with generations that really took a long time and invested many years to get to their senior titles. And I think that people think millennials and Gen Z are coming into the workforce saying, well, I'll be the CEO in 5 years. And the CEO's opinion is, well, absolutely not, because it takes time to get here. But I think that I haven't seen it firsthand yet, but I think it's a great idea, and it helps the generations to understand each other, because that's kind of the critical point, isn't it? If they understand and appreciate each other, they'll work together in more harmony, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely really interesting. Something as well that we, see internally with all the different companies that we recruit for, how it's often quite overlooked when people are trying to attract students. It's often just kind of a small thing in benefits of, offer mentoring, but do make, a big thing of it, maybe add a bit more value around that to show what benefit that gives to, the mentors and obviously the students as well. So just a couple of really small bits just before we leave. Thank you so much for today and for everyone for coming. Hopefully you've taken away some good insight. We now, as we said, obviously record the audio, so you can download it as a podcast. You can access that from the iTunes store or the alternative. I'm an Apple person, so sorry, I don't even know what the option is, the other one. But yeah, so please do download it, take a listen, make a review if you want. That'd be really useful. And the next GRN is going to be on June the 14th, and it's going to be held here again. So yeah, hopefully to see some other faces, and yeah, see you in the future. Thanks very much.
I hope today's GRN podcast gave you some useful insights into the world of mentoring. We look forward to welcoming you next time. Thank you.